Hi, I'm 션베이커. I'm an independent filmmaker. Yes, the image quality is amazing. It retains, the full color spectrum. The images are being displayed the way I intended them to be displayed. The blacks are rich, deep blacks. Overall, just an incredible image. I watch a lot of movies, a lot. And so I watch them in different ways, whether they're on a streaming app or whether they're physical media. I'm still actually watching 4K discs and Blu-rays. And many different ways. But what it comes down to is that I want the highest quality possible. I want the films to look as good as they can look and how the filmmakers intended them to look. So I usually pursue that route. But I always go back to the ones that have really influenced me and have inspired me. I look at Hal Ashby's Harold and Maude. You can definitely see its influence on my films like Starlit and Florida Project. And that was gorgeously shot on film. And so the Criterion version of that, which was restored a few years ago, looks wonderful on this set. Lars von Trier's The Idiots. Now that was shot on standard definition mini DV, but its recent restoration has bumped it up to 4K, and now I can watch it on this television and it looks wonderful. And also it's just, that was one of the early Dogma 95 films, and Dogma 95 in general was a movement that really, really inspired me and allowed me to almost have a second chance at filmmaking. It was actually the film that inspired my film Takeout, and that's what got me on a different path of filmmaking. So I owe a lot to Lars von Trier and The Idiots. Lee Chang-dong's Oasis, I think, is such a beautiful film. It made me cry when I first saw it, and it's also quite bold and quite daring, definitely controversial, and I think that what I love so much about that film is that it's definitely brave in its tackling of its subject matter, but it's also incredibly moving, and it's a love story. Joseph Sargent's Taking of Pelham 123, 1974, shot by the amazing Owen Roizman. It's just a beautiful New York movie, so New York in its characters and its setting. It's about the hijacking of a New York City subway car, and it has had a tremendous influence on crime films ever since. No, I definitely look for locations that have personality, that have a true look, and I embrace it fully. I try to make it a character because, in many ways, location sometimes defines somebody, right? Your surroundings, your space, your living space does. So I do everything I can do to really show that. And I'm hopefully also bringing the audience to places they've never been before. Unique locations are very important to me. Yes, well, it's different for every film. What it normally entails is a research period, a time in which I'm absorbing the environment or really collaborating with people from a certain group, and so it has to get to the point where there's a true understanding and a point in which I think our collaboration has reached the point where they trust me. Okay, so that's especially if I'm telling stories that about other people, that about other groups. I want them to feel represented correctly. So I guess it gets to a point where usually close to shooting, in which we are all confident that we are tackling the subject matter in a responsible and respectful way. And I think it's when we get to that point that we're confident that it's going to be a respectful representation, that's when I'm ready to go. You know, my craft is definitely influenced by a lot of filmmakers from the 70s, and in which there was a certain amount of voyeurism going on in terms of, you know, how images are captured. So that usually requires, you know, telephoto lenses, removing yourself from the action and watching it from afar. It's a style that gives the audience a sense of true reality, that you are, you know, that you are almost spying, for the lack of a better word, on somebody, or seeing their personal life that you normally wouldn't. So yes, there is, the craft is deliberate that way. I work with my wonderful directors of photography in order to figure out how to do that. Usually when it comes to, you know, dialogue scenes and human interaction, yeah, I step back a little bit because I'm not exactly involved in that conversation. So I'm watching the conversation from afar. But then there are other times I go with a wide lens in order to capture, you know, landscapes and to capture locations and show you the entire location. There's also production value. With these independent films, they're smaller. You know, I'm not having, you know, explosions. I'm not going to outer space. So what I want to do is put production value on the screen, and wide shots give you that because they're showing you that they're showing the audience that you are in that real location. You're not on a set. Well, when I went to film school, they taught us that zooms were not sophisticated. Don't use zooms. And it's like, what, you know, why should I be listening to them? It's a, you know, it's an aesthetic. It's an artistic, it's an artistic choice. It's like, why not? What's so wrong with zooms? So after a while, I started to say, you know what? I'm going to actually start embracing things that I was told not to do. And one of those things was zooms. And then I was looking at like films from the 70s, and they employed zooms in a very interesting way. So I was, in a way, I think I was in a way giving a nod to the films of the 70s and those that, you know, in that style. And you can use zooms in many different ways, you know, many different ways, just like you would use a dolly, any sort of camera move. You're using it for, you know, dramatic effect, comedic effect. I use a lot of snap zooms, you mean fast zooms in Red Rocket for a punchline, you know, and my new film has a lot of zooms as well. I truly, why not? It's just yet another filmmaking choice. Mikey is just biking around his town, and I use that opportunity to get a lot of wide shots of the town and some of the billboards and some of the murals on sides of buildings. And I think that is perhaps that looks really damn good. Yeah, I would say that's the scene to look at. There's a scene in which Mikey goes to Strawberry's house, which was this cute little pink house that we found in San Leone. So it was already in many ways art directed. It came this way. And so the way that there was this pink house and this very green lawn and this blue lake behind it and this blue sky with billowy clouds, it was just like, we got it all, and all the colors pop in that section. So people think I'm obsessed with donuts. I'm going to disappoint you. It has to do with more happenstance and serendipity. What happened was that it was actually written for Red Rocket. It was written for a food truck. But as I said earlier, locations are very important to me. So I take time to do location scouting. A lot of time. And so my producer and I, we just drove around this entire area looking for Mikey's house, looking for, you know, where we would shoot at the refineries. And one day we drove past this donut shop and we slammed on the brakes and we're like, oh my gosh, this is an amazing location. And there's connotations in its name, but not only that, it was located right next to the refineries. It was a perfect location. So then I started thinking, okay, I'm going to have to adapt to this. And then there was just that nice connection to one of my previous films. And so I embraced it, I embraced it. And I often think of it as like little gifts from the film gods when stuff like that happens. You just have to be open to looking for them and embracing them when they're there. We all said, we're not going to eat any donuts, guys. We don't want all of the, let's be disciplined, because we're going to be shooting here for a while, and we could all could all be dangerous if we start eating donuts every day. But near the end of the shoot, we're just like shoving it in our mouth. We're all eating donuts, especially the last day. So I had these huge, what they call huge bear claws. Do you know what they are? They're just dripping with glaze and pastry that's like a donut. So the bear claws, that would be my answer. It was actually my fourth film, Starlit, in which I started becoming more interested in color and how to employ color to express emotion. And then I started just, every time I would be in a new location, my DP and I would just look for the natural colors in the environment. And whether it was like a row of pastel-y colored condominiums, or a pink motel or a pink house, stuff that would just look wonderful on film. And sometimes it works in context with the film. I mean, with Florida Project, it was that world was supposed to be seen through the eyes of a little girl, Mooney. I wanted that. I brought that to it. So so my wonderful DP Alexis Zabe on that film, we just leaned into the color. And he always said to me, he goes, I want this film to feel like, I want this film to look like ice cream tastes, something like that. And I was like, yes, that's so true. That's the way we should do it, by embracing the colors of this world. And there are very few places in the world that aren't colorful. I think it's just, you have to recognize the color and you have to focus on it. Sure. I think one of the many reasons that we leaned into the color, into more colorful images, is because often the subject matter that I'm tackling, which was, people living on the margins, sex work, undocumented immigrants, this subject matter, if it's covered by Hollywood, it's usually done in a very depressing way, a very drab way. Look at the lives of these people. It's so dark and gray and sad. Well, I wanted to fight against that. I wanted to go the opposite way, because in a way that's a little unfair, right? To just proclaim somebody's life is gray. I want to show the color in everybody's life. And I think also, color is another way of expressing hope and positivity, and I think that's important to bring to the subject matter that I tackle. My new film, Anora, is going to be premiering at the Cannes Film Festival this year in competition. We are so excited and honored to be there. It's a film that I think people who like my other films will enjoy this one. It's very much in the same wheelhouse. It's very much of a New York movie. I don't want to give away too much because it hasn't premiered yet, but it's about a young sex worker who marries the son of an oligarch, and her Cinderella fairy tale dream comes true until it doesn't. Hopefully, we're living in a wonderful time in which classic cinema is now being presented to us in a way that looks better than than when the films were released originally, because of technology, because the way these films are being restored. I mean, and so it's a great time for cinephiles, and it's a great time for film lovers, because you can watch all these films at top quality, optimal, presentation, the way the filmmakers would have wanted you to see them, in your home, So it's an incredible time, and I think what'll happen, and hopefully what happens, is that when you have technology that will help exhibit films at this quality level, you'll have a whole new generation of film lovers and people who appreciate cinema. So that's my hope. That's my hope, that there's that love for cinema continues and grows and evolves.